Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to the second podcast within the UTR series. Welcome to House of the Podcast. It's me, your boy, the Silverback Thomas, being joined by King Mongo of the realm Georgia.
South Carolina.
Okay, I'll give you South Carolina. Also joining me is Sir Mike Jones, King of House Jones.
Yes. On Thursdays, I am the good stoner. Well, every day I am the good stoner. But today I am king of House Jones.
Well, see, I wasn't going to change the name up, but since we're going to do that, I'll have something different next week. Then don't worry.
I was King Mongo last week, so it just happened to work out well.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you are seeing is three fans of the series of Game of Thrones who have decided to come on and talk to you guys about the new series which is out, which is called House of the Dragon. Believe it or not, people, it's not House of the Dragons or House of Dragons.
The House of Dragons. I've been calling it House of Dragons the whole time. Apparently,
I'm still calling it House of Dragons.
It's still House of Dragons. Damn it! Listen,
it's still House of Dragons. Who knows?
Like in Cincinnati, Kroger is Kroger's with an S. Okay, so this is House of Dragons.
Well, ladies and gentlemen.
So that's South Carolina too. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. House of the motherfucking Dragons. That's what this shit is. But for those of you who have not been made to know the story of what's going on, this is set 172 years before Daenerys Khaleesi, Daenerys Targaryen, takes over the Iron Throne and burns down King's Landing. So, first and foremost, fellas, what did you think of the first episode?
Whew. Hell of a way to start, man. That I told you before, told all y'all before, I didn't like the way that the show ended. The last show ended, Game of Thrones.
Hold on, let me preface something and say, I am probably the only person in the world who did not mind the ending of Game of Thrones. Let me just preface saying that. It's probably about me and two other people who didn't mind how Game of Thrones ended. All right.
Well, the longer it's been since it happened, the more I realized it would have been fine if they just had more time to do it. Like the ending was fine, it's just they got rushed. Like that's the thing. But and there are going to be points in this episode we're going to talk about where I'm going to be like, I just wish that worked out better. But I came into this expecting to like, maybe I don't know if I'm going to feel it. I don't know if I'm going to feel as good as I did when I first watched Game of Thrones, but damn it, like the first 10 minutes, I was back in it. I was back in. Didn't take any time.
Son of a bitch, I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, like I tell people who have a hard time actually watching Game of Thrones or who like, I don't know if I get it. So far, Game of Thrones and House of the Dragon, the first episode, you get some killings, you get some beheadings, you get some sexing, and you get a hell of a story plot. If that doesn't drag you in, literally the first episode of both series gives you all of these. What's going on, Reggie? Reggie, first and foremost, before we continue, thank you, Reggie, for constantly supporting anything UTR and always showing up, Reggie. We greatly appreciate that. Our boy Big Silk 00 is always on the ball with us. But do you have to watch Game of Thrones first? Absolutely not. You do not have to watch it. Does it help? And does it? I'll put it to you this way: if you watch Game of Thrones first before you watch this, you'll find yourself doing the Leonardo DiCaprio meme. Ooh, they said this. Ooh, they said that. Ooh, that's what that is.
I know that name. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because
it's a prequel, so you don't have to know anything. You go into it
right.
blind. In fact, you might enjoy it more if you go into it
Actually,
blind.
yeah, go into it blind and then watch Game of Thrones.
Especially like because me and Raven was talking about it. After we watched the first episode, I was definitely saying like, "Wow, they're doing the Star Wars where they're telling the story backwards." So you really don't need to watch Game of Thrones first. You can watch this first season at least. Then you can run it back and understand those references more. Because like in the beginning, it tells you, like Kenny said, it starts off 172 years before the original Game of Thrones plot. But you see the name that they mentioned, Daenerys Targaryen. They mentioned Daenerys at the end of it. So they already in the first minute make a reference to Game of Thrones.
Letting you
So
know there's going to be a correlation right there, letting you know
mhm,
that. And here's the thing: if you pay attention to that particular comment that they made 172 years before Daenerys Targaryen, it kind of gives you a prequel of what's about to happen.
mhm.
Remember, Daenerys was the first queen, first and only ever queen of the Iron Throne.
Nope,
House of
no,
yeah,
no, Cersei, Cersei, right?
well, yeah, I guess you can call it that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
by
She
default,
temporarily
yeah.
sat on it. Yeah, I guess. Yeah,
By default, yeah.
by default. But as
yeah. I
far
guess
as
a lot of shit had to fall in place for that to happen. But yeah, anyway.
right,
Mhm.
like, but as far as a Targaryen, Daenerys is the first Targaryen female to sit on the Iron Throne. So the fact that they mention that should lead the viewers into thinking, okay, maybe this has something to do about females, which it most certainly fucking does. All right. This first episode, it introduces us to pretty much your main characters. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, we're going to do a quick overview of it. Reggie, I don't know if you want to stay for the whole podcast because we're really going to do a quick overview of the episode. We're really going to do a quick overview of the episode. Basically, what happens in the very beginning, they show how King Viserys, who is considered the young king, this motherfucker is like 112, and they consider this motherfucker the young king. It shows how
A young 96.
right. It shows how he actually got his claim to the throne due to the fact of King Jairus um not having any heirs. The 14 there were
Yeah,
14 claims to the throne.
Mhm.
14 the 14 claims that were to the throne were of his grandchildren and his children. All right. FYI, people, if you don't know anything about Game of Thrones or House of Dragons, just know this: there is incest like a motherfucker.
Mhm.
especially with Targaryens. That's like a
It's
real. It's all about pure blood and keeping that bloodline going, and that's something that happened a lot in like really like olden times.
in feudal. It
Yeah.
happened. It happened a lot, pretty much up until modern era. Because think about it, rich people have been doing that for years to make sure the rich stays within the rich.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
So up until modern times, that basically kind of just stopped. Let's be realistic. Let's be realistic. Um, so those 14 choices that he was listening to were his grandchildren and children. King Jairus married his sister.
Mhm.
Yuck.
King Jairus is the uncle daddy.
Yeah.
Ugh. Ugh.
Yuck. Yuck.
He's the uncle daddy.
Okay. Yuck. Um, and King Viserys and the gentleman that he winds up choosing to be his successor, Viserys, he's married to his
His cousin?
cousin.
Yeah, his cousin.
Yeah.
Yuck.
Yeah.
Which
It's a
plays
lot of
into a
that.
yeah, but here's the thing: him being married to his cousin plays a lot into the fact that there was only one surviving child after her being pregnant. How many times she said? 6.
I think you said 6 times, 5 times.
Yeah, it was
Five
Right.
times
five
after
times.
five
Yep.
times after after
Rhaenyra.
What's her name?
After
Rhaenyra.
Rhaenyra.
After she was born, yeah.
Yep.
And
After
all
Rhaenyra.
5 didn't make it.
Didn't make it. I'm not trying to say anything, but inbreeding does have a little cause of death to do
It
with that.
causes complications.
What you
It's
call
one
it?
of the
Also,
reasons why it's looked down upon. Many other ones. This
yeah.
pretty.
But here's the thing: the inbreeding also plays a major factor later on in the story of Game of Thrones itself, because the inbreeding is what causes certain members of the Targaryen family to go mad. Hence the Mad King, hence Daenerys. Every couple of generations, that inbreeding kicks in, and that's it.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Game of Thrones. The first series was about the starts with the death of the Mad King, and it ends with the death of the Mad Queen, essentially.
Pretty
So
much.
we're going to go back now is just kind of uncover more of their family history and how we got to that point.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the thing I found out too after doing a lot of digging and everything, because I was trying to let you guys know. It's a lot of interesting factors for certain people within this show. The only other person who had a rightful claim to the throne besides King Viserys was his cousin. And how do you say her name? Oh, she's Rhaenys. Rhaenys.
Rhaenys.
Rhaenys.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Rhaenys.
Rhaenys.
Rhaenys. But here's the thing. I don't think she would have ever gotten it due to the fact of she's not pure blood, technically.
She's not.
Yeah,
She is not pure blood. Rhaenys is the daughter of Jacaerys, the king's oldest son, and her mother is a Baratheon. So, besides the fact of her being a woman, which they weren't really big on back then, women being in charge, she was a Baratheon. So technically, she's not a pureblood.
Nope.
But I fucks with Rhaenys because she married my man from Shazam.
My man, Lord Corlys.
There was a meme I saw that was like, Corlys knows the deal. Don't ever drink at that table when it's just you, and it's just like him putting his hand over the cup.
Mm-hmm.
When you were the only one, when you are the only one, King's Landing, you better not sip out that damn cup.
Not one bit. Not one bit. And Corlys is the master of the ships. That's
Yeah.
That's his particular title. So basically, he's the king pirate.
King Pirate.
That's basically what it is.
It's a high position. So yeah, it was down to
Rhaenys and Viserys.
Rhaenys and Viserys. So Viserys gets it because he's only out of those two, he's the only one that's male.
Because he has a penis that works, unlike Bronn.
Yeah, he's not fucking broken.
And so what we learn about what his reign is, because we come in 10 years after he's given control of the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Is that he's trying to be like as peaceful and just calm as he possibly can. And then he's got a brother who is just a little shit. And
he's got a little brother who is Joffrey, but with actual balls.
Joffrey that can fight. Daemon
Yeah.
Targaryen, played by Matt Smith. If you watched Doctor Who, who's one of the doctors in Doctor Who, he was also the villain in Morbius that came out recently. I don't know if any of y'all watched that.
Unfortunately.
So he's got some hits and misses. But he I'll tell you what, he plays a great bastard because Jesus, they don't give him a lot of time before he just goes
chopping dicks and taking faces.
I mean, the first
that's what he did. Chopping dicks and taking faces.
It's his brother, basically the position of the leader of the City Watch.
Yep.
And he decides to just go into King's Landing and just, all right, anybody that's been accused of anything, it's time for punishment. Anybody, anything. So it's what we see
And
them do
depending
is go
upon
after.
what you did, it depends upon what the hell he decided your his taking was going to be.
And we
Mm-hmm.
heard them do three things. First thing was a thief, so thief,
Thief.
Them
head.
hands is gone.
Second one was a rapist,
Raper.
Choppy choppy pee pee.
and man, oh my God, they, oof,
They showed, ladies and
they
gentlemen.
make
I
you
just
watch
want to
Showed
let
them.
you
it.
know. I just want to let you know, ladies and gentlemen. If you've never seen Game of Thrones, picture the the graphic the graphic intent of Game of Thrones and House of Dragons. If you've never seen any of those, picture Braveheart on steroids.
Yeah, yeah, Braveheart. Yeah, that's a good example.
Picture
Um,
Braveheart on steroids and how better yet, picture Game of Thrones as far as the violence and what they show. Picture Braveheart meets Apocalypto.
mm, yeah, that'll do it. So we see that he does that throughout the entire night. Those happen, and then if you're a murderer, you
Oh,
kill
your head is
you.
gone.
They
Yeah, your head
decapitate
is
you.
gone. Yep.
So after that, they say that
He did
Damon
enough
has
for
taken
two carts,
two carts of body parts.
Mm-hmm.
not whole bodies, ladies and gentlemen. Not
Body
whole
part.
body parts. An arm doesn't take up that much space in a cart.
Nope. So,
Oh,
so
damn
you
sure it don't.
see,
I don't
okay,
know how many
so you
sets of
see,
nuts he was taking.
yep, you see a couple hands, a couple heads, a couple arms, a couple dicks. You just see a couple parts of everything.
What,
Every
what
body part you just see in those
what
two
crime did you have to commit for him to take your leg though? Did you kick the dog?
you probably
Like,
you probably tried to run.
Ding dong did somebody lose your feet.
I'm just
Tough
trying to
going on
think.
here.
What crime do you have to commit to get your foot taken? Like, what do you got to do?
Resist arrest.
I mean, they took Kunta foot because he tried to run. Okay.
Motherfuckers tried to run from King's Landing and they got caught. You
Yeah,
want to run?
all right. You know what? There it is. It's the
Mm-hmm.
goddamn. Yeah, it's that effect right there.
Yep.
So as
But
brutal as that is, we kind of get towards the next step, and while Viserys is about to meet his son because his wife is pregnant. They say it's going to be a son. I don't know how they knew it was a son. They just said, "Oh, it's
he
going to be a son."
no, Viserys was the one who said it was going to be a son because he had a
Mm,
dream that it was a
yeah.
son. Because even the master of the citadel was like, we have no way of predicting the sex. Even his wife was like, listen, it's not going to grow a cock if it doesn't have one. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
but
Oh
he
man,
was
I have never seen someone try to like plead for their life more than her going like, "I've tried my best to give you a son.
right.
I can't do this anymore.
She
I'm
was letting
sorry,
him
but
know. She was letting him know, and they get like, listen, I'm just letting you know this right now. The booty is shut down after this. If I make
Mm-hmm.
this shit, you ain't touching me no more, motherfucker.
She said, "This is my last one. This is my last pregnancy,
and you
and
know what? She
rightfully
was right.
so."
She was right.
Unfortunately, sheesh. It was yay. But Viserys, he had that dream. And remember, he kept saying, "It's a boy." I had a dream. He had on Aegon's crown, and he was going to lead us through the fire and the ice. Because that's another thing that plays a big part later on, which also ties into Game of Thrones later on.
And also, as we meet him, we also meet Rhaenyra, his daughter. What is the first thing she does when she appears? She returns to King's Landing on a fucking dragon.
She come, she her entrance, the way that King's Landing met Daenerys, met Daenerys when she came on a
Mm-hmm.
fucking dragon flying with golden blonde hair.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and I saw a meme also. It had a earlier today. It was a picture. It was like the first episode and the last episode of the first episode of House of Dragons and the last episode of Game of Thrones, and it had picture from the back of Rhaenyra looking at the Iron Throne when it's in its full glory, and Daenerys looking at the Iron Throne when it's half-ass nothing.
Yeah.
Yo, can we talk about that fucking Iron Throne? Oh my god! Like
that thing stretched out across the entire court. That thing's huge.
Oh my god!
First of all, this motherfucker getting cut just trying to sit down on the shit.
Cut. So this is fresh Valyrian steel he's sitting on.
Getting sliced the fuck up. That's why he got that sore on his back, sitting on the goddamn blade, slicing his ass up.
Mm-hmm. And about Rhaenyra, like when she returns back and she has the conversation with her mother, and then one of the things that was interesting, you can really see what type of person Rhaenyra is when her mother says, you know, our womb is our battlefield. And you can look at Rhaenyra and she was just like, fuck that. Mm-hmm. Like I've seen you have 5 miscarriages trying to have a son. Fuck that.
Rhaenyra is Arya.
Thank you. I was just about to say. When she said that, I'm like, oh, she's giving me Arya Stark vibes. Definitely giving me Arya Stark vibes. Because
even earlier than that, she's talking to her friend and reading in the books and trying to like read up on the history.
Mm-hmm.
And her friend's trying to tell her how important this stuff is and how she needs to learn it. And she shows that she knows all of it enough, but doesn't care about it. Just because she doesn't care about all of the politics, all of what she has to do, like to be like a lady in the kingdom. She does not give a shit.
Not one
bit.
Not
for her.
Fuck the septa.
Fuck the septa.
Pretty much.
But we also see later on how much like that has affected her relationship with her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Because she says several times over that she can't make him happy
because she's not a boy.
She can't be his son. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an intense thing that like women have said have dealt with even like now.
Yeah.
Right, that's very common. So that's a pretty important battle for someone to go through mentally. And so that kind of helps you recognize her and kind of see where she is, where her headspace is before everything just hits the fan. And it hits the fan quick.
Right. Mm-hmm. And it hits the fan during the tournament for the heir.
Right.
The king decides to have a tournament to celebrate the coming of his heir. Like I stated, he feels that he automatically knows it's a boy. And during this tournament, you hear a lot of familiar names. You hear the names Baratheon. You hear the name Stark. You hear that someone is Dornish. You hear a lot of familiar things. What you wind up seeing during this tournament is we kind of jumped the gun a little bit with Daemon. We forgot to mention one thing. As of right now, until a male heir is born, Daemon is the heir to the throne.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Even though everybody on Viserys' court is clearly against Daemon being named king.
Except
all think he's nuts, except for like
except my man Littlefinger. Corlys is Littlefinger.
Corlys. Yeah, he's
I got a feeling Corlys is Littlefinger.
He and his wife are going to be very important to the story, it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
You got to see the way that they trade looks whenever something's said. It seems like they're always planning.
Listen, mm-hmm. They're going to play an important part because technically, as Jacaerys' oldest living relative, Rhaenys should have been the queen, but Viserys got it.
Mm-hmm.
So they still feel that claim, because remember, the Baratheon Knight said, "I would like the favor of the queen that never was,"
which is such a
so fucked up. That's a fucked up moniker to have to carry with you.
And then you could tell that it hurts them. And then somebody in the stand said that they should have their tongues cut out for that.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And so it basically just says they can flap their gums all they want to. It doesn't matter.
And
But, like, it's just a lot of like open disrespect to her.
And
And
another important character who is also on the court, the hand of the king,
Otto Hightower.
Otto
Hightower.
Otto
He's also
Hightower
very
is
important.
Otto Hightower is Tywin Lannister. I see it now.
Mm.
The fact that he sent his daughter into the king's chambers let me know
that-
he was Tywin
Yeah,
Lannister.
all right, so we need to talk about that, but let's get to it first. So, like you're saying, this tournament's happening.
Tournament is happening, and as the tournament is happening, Queen Emma goes into labor. During this time of her going into labor, the Grand Maester comes to King Viserys and pretty much tells him, "Yo, check this out. Your wife is gonna die, regardless of what happens. You can either let them both die, or we can try this new procedure and we can save the baby." The new procedure, ladies and gentlemen, that they're talking about is a C-section. As a king who wants an heir to a throne, of course, save the baby. So they commenced to having this C-section done. I didn't think they were going to show that shit. Here's the thing.
Oh my god.
Here's the thing. Here's the thing. Here's the thing, fellas. Here's the thing. I'm going to be 100% honest with you, and it's going to sound really crazy. I've seen a C-section live with Ryan, with my 12-year-old. I saw her C-section live. I did not follow instructions and keep my head on the opposite side of the curtain. Okay? I watched. If they did not have the technology where the suction of blood, so I can see it, it's pretty much not that much different, fellas. They really go in there, take out their insides, put it on the table, there goes your stomach, there goes your intestines. Up, now let me grab this baby out of there and put all your stuff back in there and mix it around and hope you all right. That's pretty much what a C-section is on the low. And damn if they didn't show it.
Jesus Christ.
Oh my god! And the thing is, we're cutting from like gruesome violence in the tournament to that, because like it isn't just like a jousting thing. They are killing each other. Like we're seeing like axes in the face. Someone's eye got busted out by a mace. Like it is gory. And then you're like, wow, that's brutal. Cut to this queen screaming, begging her king to stop the procedure as they are driving this knife into her stomach, tearing her open.
And as they're doing that, they are pulling out that new heir. Daemon is in the midst of a jousting fight and loses. So in that one process,
the Dorn, right? The Dorn.
Yes.
Yeah.
In that one moment, he lost two things. He lost the tournament and he lost his place in being the heir, which was highly significant to him losing. So he lost the tournament and he lost his place on being the heir. Daemon was having a badass day. Daemon even went to try to go get some hoes and couldn't keep his meat up with the hoes.
He had a tough time with it. But I mean, going back to that C-section thing, it
was gruesome.
Because they have the people holding her down each limb. They're just like pressing her down. And Viserys is just like, it's gonna be okay. It's like his hands are on her face. It is so intense. And if you never saw Game of Thrones had brutal deaths before. But they really made this one drag out as long as they could. And you're just hoping that, okay, at least maybe the son's going to be all right. And, something will happen out of this. The next scene is them at a funeral pyre for both the queen and the son, who only lasted a few hours,
few
I
hours.
think.
Because if you notice, like if you pay attention while the scepter is holding him, you can hear gargles from the baby. He
Right when he asks about his name, yeah.
He's gargling up blood.
Yeah.
So when I heard that, I was like, "Ooh, that's not good at all."
And
So yeah,
here's the thing: the reason why he was gargling that up is with a C-section, it takes away one of the things from a natural birth. With a natural birth, the child is being pushed through the mouth. Okay, so it's able to press on the lungs and get a lot of the amniotic fluid and stuff out of the baby. It's being pushed out because it's squeezing the baby through a smaller hole. With the C-section, it's not doing that. So a lot of that amniotic fluid, it's still inside of their lungs and stuff like that. Usually with the C-section, when the baby first comes out, they throw a suction tube down the baby, like to get everything out, like immediately, to make sure the baby's breathing regular. You know what I mean? So that's what that probably was. All that amniotic fluid being built up, and the fact that his mom and his daddy were cousins did not help that baby situation either. You know.
yeah, that is by far. I mean, because the Game of Thrones, you have a lot of, and I don't
Detailed
know.
and gruesome deaths.
Yeah, that's up there as far as just heartbreaking. That's up there with the red wedding.
It is. It really
Yeah.
is. The
That
one that
is
always gets
extremely
me.
heartbreaking.
The one that always gets me is Oberyn, fighting the mountain.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I also put it up there with that. Just like, oh, come on, dude, Jesus. And there's something that happens later on, which we'll get to very soon, where the king gets mad at his brother for saying something
Fucked up.
upsetting about his son. It is rightfully fucked up. But his daughter says something not as fucked up, but close to it at the funeral.
I hope my father found happiness in those
2 hours.
For those 4. No, I think she said 4 for those 4 hours.
4 hours.
That he had.
He says, you need to be strong for your father. I hope my father was happy for those 4 hours. Like, oh, Jesus.
You got to remember, she blames her father for her mother's death at this point, and she had to be this. Her father was supposed to have been the one to give the instruction for the dragon for them to do the cremation. She had to be strong on and actually yell out Dracarys.
Because he couldn't. He was too far gone in mourning.
Mm-hmm.
Too far gone. But later on, we see that night, 2 really fucked up things happen. First off, Daemon goes to a whorehouse with his with the King's Landing crew.
They're
essentially
City Watch.
City Watch.
They're essentially celebrating that he's back in first in line for
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he says to what was the son's name? Balin?
Yeah.
Yeah, Balin.
To Prince Balin, heir for a day.
Yes.
Whew.
Well, that pisses off Viserys. Oh, lot.
Who, by the way, that night he's in his room, he's in his quarters, he's just like sitting in front of this this model of King's Landing, just like looking at a ring that he had given his wife. And Otto Hightower has sent in his daughter,
who is the same age as his daughter.
Him. Yeah. Known to be very close friends. And then this show, they're really pushing close friends. Like, it feels like it might be going towards something else.
Well, with this show, you know that.
Yeah.
It ain't no it feels like.
Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't know if they actually they don't ever say if he did or didn't go through with it. I don't think he did.
I don't think he did because of what she said. She said that when her mother died, who recently passed away, that people spoke to her in riddles. Mm-hmm. People, no one just paid attention, and all she wanted was someone to say that they were sorry for her. And she said, "I'm sorry, Your Grace, for what you're going through." I think that was her saving point. Yeah. It either became her saving point or it became the point in which she fell in love. We'll see.
Yeah.
But like, so the Hand of the King sends his daughter in to try to just. I mean, let's be honest about the situation is fuck the sadness out of the king, which is just terrible. So the next morning, whatever happened there, Viserys finds out what his brother said about his dead son. Not only does he find out, he finds out in front of his entire court, along with his daughter. They all find out together.
And that's even more of a horrible situation to be in if you're Viserys. You just lost your wife and your son and your heir, and now later on this evening you have to immediately talk about the heir. Like, that's fucked up. What did he say? He said he will not suffer watching his son and daughter get eaten by crows, discussing the heir right now.
Right. No, let these crows. Something about that. It's God. It's just so brutal. Like you see, just him have to deal.
The man
with
is hurt.
You see him dealing with all the stages of depression over the course of like 24 hours, and it is just he's going through a lot of shit. And again, with Targaryens, like they're always one bad day away, essentially. And you have to like wonder, like, oh, what's his breaking point? What's his breaking point going to be, and what happens when he reaches it?
Well, his breaking point was heir to the throne for a day. But here's the thing. During this episode, whether you know it or not, you notice there's a very tight bond between Rhaenyra and Daemon.
There is.
Yeah.
There's
he cares a
lot. He actually cares a lot for her and his brother. He actually does care a lot for them.
He truthfully, he feels a certain way about the king's, about his court, about his table, but it's whatever he's doing is to help his family. That's how he pretty much. He's very selfish, yes, but he seems to be loyal to Targaryens at least.
Right, and he's like when he went through that whole cleaning thing.
He expressed that to Daemon. Like he said, "I'm the only one who defended you." And
he says that court is there to leech off of you. They know that
you're weak. Right.
I would protect you, but they're there to leech off of you in your weakness. Which is those are some really harsh words, but also kind of true words.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. He doesn't even say that he wants to be king. He says, you haven't even named me your hand. So when they were maybe your brother, he was like, no, my brother has ambition, but it won't be to kill me.
And with that, that's where you see the stain between Daemon and Otto Hightower. Because
that's why
who's the first person Daemon challenged?
I was getting ready to say that's why he picked Hightower's kid and whipped his ass.
Almost broke his neck.
Like
he heard that comment he wasn't supposed to hear from Otto, and he heard his brother defend him, and you can see his face change when he hears what Viserys says about him. Where he's like, okay, so he understands, and then unfortunately that relationship unravels because of that comment that he said in a public setting about his dead nephew.
Right. That was a no-go.
But I do wonder if that was because they kind of pushed him to say something. That group he was with, like he was at a table. He wasn't really like enjoying the party with everybody else.
Right.
He was sitting at a table drinking by himself, and then like three people come up to him and try to talk him up, and then one of his like right-hand men like, everyone shut up. He's got something to say.
As he was getting head.
Yeah.
That was the shit that had me dying. That was the shit that had me dying. Reminded me of me back in the day.
I read the original Song of Ice and Fire books up to where they are right now. I've not read what this is based off of, so I'm going into this blind completely. I don't know what's going to happen with any of this. I wonder what that's going to change for Daemon, because I honestly, it feels like that was not something he was just going to blurt out.
Here's the
Like
thing.
Otto
He
made it
coulda
sound like
left it.
Otto made it sound like he was joyous and cheerful and all that, and he wasn't when he said
Here's the
it.
thing. He would have been okay if he'd have just left it at Balin. If he'd have just left it at his nephew's name, I don't think Viserys would have been too pissed off. I think he'd just been like, because remember, he said we all choose the morn in our own ways, brother. I think he'd have let it slide if he'd just left it at his name. It's the heir for a
Air for a
day.
day. And it's a dumb
That
shit. But hey,
part.
we've all said dumb shit.
And
We've all
then he
said some
got
dumb
sent,
shit.
and as a punishment, Viserys said, "You know what, motherfucker, go home to your wife."
He says
Motherfucker,
lady
Send
wife.
him home.
He says go home. He says go home to your lady
Motherfucker,
wife.
they can send him home to his wife.
What the fuck? First off, what the fuck is a lady wife? What does that mean? That sounded rude. That sounded real offensive. It's just like
He's like, yo, you want? He's like, oh, you want to be out here with them hoes? You ever get word? Fuck my son. Go home to your wife now. Go stay with your wife. Go stay with your wife. Knowing
so
damn well your man hates his wife.
I mean, that's a hell of a punishment. So after that, when they're talking to each other, Viserys reveals who the new heir is. He's officially naming his daughter as the first heir to the throne. He also tells her in a private meeting the importance of what she's about to be given. She says that they haven't spoken since her mom died.
Right.
They've not spoken since. And that's a lot. It's a lot of silence.
Right.
Between a father and a daughter. You know, to not speak to each other after that kind of death, that's a lot of silence.
But it's only been like 2 days. It's only been like 3 days.
It's still a lot for
that's
father.
eternity.
It's still
eternity.
And the first thing he says to her is like,
"You about to be in charge, homie."
Do you know the history of this? Do you know what this skull of this dragon is here for? And then he talks about whose dream was it? Was it Aegon's? Aegon's dream. Aegon dreamed of a long winter that could only be stopped if the Targaryen was sitting on the throne, which is why a Targaryen must always be in control of the throne. If you watch Game of Thrones, you know what that's about. And essentially, if there was no Targaryen there, they were fucked. If there was no Targaryen there when the White Walkers come back, they are fucked.
500%.
Yeah, there's no winning that. And that was the thing that I was saying before. Like, there's a point in this show that I said, I wish that just played out a little bit better. That's right there what it was. Right there's what it was. He might have. He probably did. But that's the point where I'm like, God, I just wish that season had like maybe 2 more seasons. Just like stretch it out 2 more seasons, we're fine. Because the more I think about it, Kenny, the more I think you're right. It really wasn't that bad of an ending. Let's be honest. Honestly, it just got rushed. It just got rushed.
Okay, I will say it wasn't a bad ending. Like everything about the ending made perfect sense, but they just kind of was like, "Yo, we need to do this in 2 weeks, bro."
Because they wanted. George R. R. Martin said, "Hey, you got to have 12 seasons of this show," and D&D was like, "We're gonna wrap it up in 8." And
easily done 12. Easily,
dude. It's such a money making thing. Like that, they left money on the table, not.
All right.
That out.
Let me ask the question. So, hold on. Let's just finish the episode. Yeah. The episode ends with the entire royal court, all 7 kingdoms, acknowledging that Daenerys is now the sole heir to the Iron. The Starks from Winterfell.
Oh yeah, they make sure we hear that. They make sure we hear Stark from Winterfell.
From Winterfell.
Yeah.
Okay. House of the Wolf. House of the Dire Wolf. You hear the Baratheon name. The Baratheon took the longest to kneel, if you remember. He was the one that she kind of had to give the look to, like, hello. He was like, all right, fuck it, let me do this shit.
You know how the
So
Baratheons are.
right,
It's so it's so
Big
funny
ass.
how, especially with the Baratheons, how just their character traits just go down the line,
as
like very
dicks,
pugnacious, arrogant,
right,
That
and just
is
are fucking
that is
losers.
that's Game of Thrones to a T. Though, is we are our fathers and mothers, sons and daughters.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like that is exactly what. And the whole point is to you got to be the one to break the chain. You got to be the one to break the wheel to make any important change. So we'll see. I think we're going to see more of. That's exactly how a Stark would act. Of course, it's what a Baratheon would say. And the further we get into this show, the more we're going to recognize a lot of personalities.
I was
Mm-hmm.
getting ready to say, so far out of episode 1, who's your favorite character?
Oh, Corliss.
Easily, easily, Corliss is my favorite character. Easily,
He has not backed down on any opinions that he has to say.
he reminds
Uh,
me of Tyron. He reminds me of
he does,
Tyron, who
but
only wants the good of the realm.
Mm-hmm.
he only speaks when he needs to speak. So he's not going to say everything that's on his mind, but when he does speak, he's going to say the full sentence out
Mhm.
loud. I really can't wait to see what he and his wife do. I'm really
Right.
invested in that relationship.
Shazam and his little Will and Jada kids. I want to see what's
Like
going on with that.
I'm really excited for that. That's gonna be a fun thing to explore.
You know what? And I do enjoy Corliss, Lord Corliss, but I enjoy Damon also. You need
Damon's
a
great.
fucking villain. You
Yeah.
need a great fucking villain.
Here's the thing.
But
You know what?
he's not a like 100% bastard though.
No.
You understand some shit that he does.
Mm-hmm.
If you
Like
think
he's
about it,
extreme, but you understand it.
I was gonna say, is he even a villain? Because think about it. He made a good point on why he did all of those killings. He was like, "You're about to have a tournament with all of the seven kingdoms coming here. Do you want the people that are coming here to feel that they are safe? Or do you want them to be worried about, or do you want these murderers and rapists and thieves running amok about with all of them
Because
people?"
what did he said it right to Otto's face too. He said, "Of course you think it's not needed. You live in your brick and ivory tower
Mm-hmm.
while I
Mhm.
am down there every day." He made it like it's a good point. It's a good point. We
You
really
know
don't
who?
know what that part of King's Landing was like back then. It could have been the way he said it was.
You know.
Or
You know
or
who?
was he just hey, we heard you might have been a thief. We heard you might have been a rapist.
Mm-hmm.
Like we don't know. That's the thing. It's going to be interesting to see where Damon ends up in a few episodes.
You know who he reminds me of? Killmonger. That's
Mhm.
who. That's who Damon reminds me of.
Killmonger.
Fucking Eric Killmonger. Because just like how you guys
You,
said that he's not really a villain in House of Dragon, Killmonger wasn't a villain really also in Black Panther.
I mean, hold on. At
I
one
mean,
point, he
he was
did
a villain,
become. At one point, the
but
man just wanted to give everybody black a gun and have him shoot up
yeah,
the white
but
man.
but like
And
but like
once he
when you
got on the throne, that's what he
but
kind of
like
wanted
but
to
for the
do.
first but for those for the first
I
hour and a half of that
mean,
but for the first hour and a half of that movie, it's like I mean, he makes a lot of good points. That's kind of it's kind of yes, that's fair.
good
That
Right,
job,
we
but
we
then
have
he
we have
got
to
on
get set
then
up.
he got on the throne and was like, "Yo, where was that? You know what? We're gonna give all my brothers and sisters some guns and some Wakandans and let you." I mean, that's when you go to the that's when you start getting into the villain route when you want to wipe out a whole race. That's when you kind of go into the villain route.
I mean, but
But that, but I mean, like I kind of get what Mike's saying. It does make it a bit more interesting when like a villain's kind of making a good point here. Oh, a little far, but still,
Right,
you
like
know.
you did not have to rip his face off with the axe. But okay, yeah, I see why you might have, but it wasn't
I
completely necessary.
I saw your point,
What?
and he just saw the point of the axe. So, but overall, great first episode.
Great first episode. Has me definitely waiting for Sunday to get to the next episode, without a doubt. Um, Damon. Here's the thing. Do you think Viserys feels that Targaryens can't control the dragons because he doesn't have a particular connection with the dragon? Because think about it. Rhaenyra has one, and Daemon has one with his.
Mm-hmm.
They have like a connection. Do you think maybe that's why he said that?
Yeah, because I mean, it definitely shows there's some insecurity.
Because here's the thing. Haha. Here's the thing. And the reason why I bring that up is because Viserys is also the name of Daenerys' brother, who was making the claim he was the real heir to the Iron Throne. The one that Drake Calgo gave the gold helmet to. And remember, he had no connection with the dragons either. It was Daenerys.
So
Same name,
because of
same
the
concept.
inbreeding, does that skip a generation or so? Like, does that skip across siblings? Does that skip across family members also?
Is I wonder if they'll get to the point where they let us know about the more about the Mad King. I wonder if all of the ones who potentially went or have gone mad had connections with dragons. The inbreeding was a side effect. The side effect was the dragon connection and the going mad. Daenerys went mad. I wonder if the Mad King had was able to have a connection with dragons as well.
Yeah, I guess because Viserys made a pretty important point to say that we weren't meant to use these dragons like weapons. We weren't meant, and we were also weren't meant to live alongside them.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was. There's they've alluded to a lot of different stuff that I'm just really. I can't wait for the next episode.
Yeah.
It feels good to say that again about Game of Thrones. We're like, God, I'm so excited for Sunday. Can't wait.
That was a fucking banger. Like, I already watched it the second time, and I'm definitely gonna watch it the third time before the Sunday.
3, baby. I already did 3, baby. Catch up. You gotta catch up, daddy. You gotta catch up, daddy.
Next week we'll talk about the next episode. We'll see where this goes for Daemon, Rhaenyra, and everybody else. Any predictions for the next episode from you guys?
I see next episode. I think I'm seeing Corlys is going to also get control of the City Watch as well as being the master of ships.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm seeing Corlys pulling a double duty at some point and not wanting to.
And with that point, I think he's going to make his first major move.
See, I was thinking it was either going to go to Otto's son or the guy that beat Daemon in the tournament.
Listen, Otto's son is fucked up because remember half his face got ripped off when he fell face first on that horse.
Yeah.
So unless Otto's son becomes the he becomes the descendant of the mountain and the hound.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Good.
Maybe. But yeah, so we'll be back next Wednesday to talk about the next installment of House of Dragons. We'll also be back tomorrow to get back into wrestling. And it's been another busy news week for us to talk about.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning into this, guys. If y'all are invested in Game of Thrones, just like our content, we will be trying to do more over the next few months. There's a lot more things that we're interested in aside from wrestling and this. All three of us are actually big boxing fans, So do something like that down the line. We'll see. Only time will tell. Until then, please follow us at twitch.tv/Under the Ring Pod and Facebook.com/Under the Ring Pod. You can also catch us on Twitter at RockRibs44. Got me at Greg Bush SK, and of course, Mr. Fresh Beard.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, folks. We'll see you next time.